This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. I just want to spend a few minutes to talk about some new resources that you and other educators you might have contact with in your professional life might be interested in. I'm Peg Steffen, and as Margaret said, I used to work for the National Ocean Service, but I retired in February and had a chance to use some of my lifetime network opportunities to spread the word about these STEM lessons. And so I wanted to first introduce the fact that a lot of people don't understand how immersive GPS is in our life. This slide shows some of the many different ways that GPS is used in our everyday activities, and sometimes they're very hidden, but GPS is very much a part of this. And I also wanted to show this national management structure for GPS, which looks very complicated, but you'll see the big yellow arrow in the middle of the picture. And the reason that this is the National Coordination Office is in the Department of Commerce is that so much of GPS, as you saw in the previous slide, does have to do with our economy and moving materials and services and protection. So a lot of what we do has to do with commerce, and that's why the coordination office is there. And they actually worked with some of the other organizations on this slide to help develop a series of 12 lessons on GPS. And so it's called the GPS-based STEM curriculum. It's a series of 12 lessons in 4 different thematic areas. I did put the website here, and I will put it on several other slides. I also want to mention that this series of lessons used to be hosted on gps.com, but that migration over to gps.gov is right now in the process. And so my best advice for you, if you go to look for these 12 lessons, is to go to gps.gov later, and you will find it under the students and teachers section. And let me tell you just a little bit about these lessons. They were developed with the idea of having very few or low-cost materials that include a very complex system of stories, videos, presentation materials, and also highlighting career opportunities and hands-on lessons. They were designed to support the new science standards. They do tie to the performance expectations, but they do not go into depth with the next generation science standards. They do include some connections to the Common Core. There are some really nice real world application scenarios that highlight how GPS is used with satellites, orbital space clutter, energy, agriculture. It also includes some things on aviation weather forecasting, and of course, conservation. GPS is key to all of those things, and there are lessons on each one. The lessons were developed by a contractor who used this pedagogy of inquiry, discovery, explanation, and application in all of the lessons. They also did a great job, I think, of bringing in some real-time and archive data analysis and focusing on how we model what we're doing. And the lessons do include, in many cases, the application of geometry and mathematics. The lessons themselves, I said, were divided into 4 themes: Earth, space, life, and movement. And there are 3 lessons in each one of the themes. Now, the contractor who developed these lessons, it wasn't me, but she did a great job of going out and finding things that were already developed and online, and then tweaking them into this idea format. In some cases, she had to come up with some new ideas as well, but some of these, especially in the Earth theme, Are We There Yet?, Do You Read Me?, and Navigation and Global Positioning System, some of those activities were available previously on gps.gov. The movement, up and away, energy and information, and the global supply chain, some of those I think bring in the economic aspects of GPS technology. The space section does a really nice job of tying in our dependence on space and orbits, satellites and orbits, I'm sorry, and some really nice connections to the International Space Station and how we get supplies up there. And what does GPS have to do with all of that? The life section, the theme of life, gets into weather forecasting, how we use GPS to pinpoint problems in environmental conservation, and also an interesting thing, and which I was grateful for because I now live in the midsection of the country, is how do we use GPS in agriculture and precision farming, knowing where to put things and when. So a nice a smattering of different ways that GPS technology is integral to our daily life. Let me go through just a little bit of each of the themes. This is the Earth theme. There are some very nice introductory movies, some nice career connections on gps.gov that would help to bring some of this alive for students. The videos especially, the introduction to GPS. Where are the satellites? How did they get up there? You know, some of the launching of some of those GPS satellites. And then helping students understand their position on the Earth, and many schools still spend a lot of time on latitude and longitude. And then, you know, how does that transfer then to knowing where you are and navigation and global positioning? So it's a nice introduction to many things that a lot of schools have in their middle school curriculum especially. And I would say that these lessons are probably appropriate for upper elementary to high school, depending on the course. The course 2, the theme of space, this one gets into the International Space Station, getting materials up there, knowing where satellites are in their orbits, and having them do some calculating to resupply the ISS. So there's some really nice math connections in the second theme. The third one on life has to do with weather forecasting, being able to pinpoint where some of the environmental issues are occurring and being able to map those out and try to then come up with some appropriate fixes for those, and also to focus on some of the agricultural farming. The last one is movement, and this one touches on a lot of the commerce applications of GPS. It also does a really nice job with taking a look at all of the careers that have to do with STEM and GPS. And so, you know, the air, energy, and transportation are the key ingredients here. And I mentioned the career diversity encouragement. This, I think the materials themselves do a nice job of pulling in some career opportunities for students, highlighting some of the diverse ways that students can enter a STEM field. And these are, of course, some of the iconic folks. I'm thinking of Mae Jemison and Sally Ride and Neil deGrasse Tyson, some of those people that would have used or using GPS technology for their work. And so it's a nice, nice tie between GPS and STEM. And I think the lessons themselves are good for classrooms, of course. I am also suggesting that a lot of these lessons are very appropriate and would be extremely useful in after-school projects, because the lessons themselves, in some cases, are very teacher-directed, so they're very step-by-step. And if a person who's doing an after-school program is not very comfortable with teaching in general, they're just in for the afternoon to help students do an activity. This is a nice step-by-step explanation of the kinds of questions that you ask, what kinds of things are you looking for from the students, and a complete list of how you do all of these activities. So it's a nice introduction and getting your feet wet. Some of these activities would also be very nice for using at a science night or other informal institution, like a science camp, for example. So that's just a very, very quick introduction to the GPS STEM curriculum. As I said, it's now in transition between a development site and gps.gov. So be patient, it will be up there. I do want to say that gps.gov website has some other materials on the website that might be useful. I In fact, I downloaded today a GPS Adventures that was written for K-5, and it's going to be very useful for any elementary teacher that's trying to put their dip their toe into the GPS curriculum. So there's a lot of ancillary multimedia videos and things as well, and I would really suggest that you take a look at the teachers and students section in the gps.gov. All right, I think we will stop there and take questions.
Thank you, Peg. Yeah, everyone's unmuted if anyone has a question.
Hi, Peg. This is Shelley Old from UNAVCO.
Hi there.
I don't have a question per se, but I did have a comment saying this is wonderful to see. It provides such a direct contact with what students are interacting with on a daily basis. I'm looking forward to seeing these online so that we can link to those to provide that really student focus. So thank you for having these created, or for them being created, and for presenting about it.
My pleasure. I have to, full disclosure, I did not develop them, and I really didn't have anything to do with the development of them, but then I was asked to, who do you know that you can talk to get the word out? And so I said, well, I know some people. So this is part of that getting the word out kind of thing. But yeah, thank you. I will pass that on to the developers.